So I thought I'd take a look at the Civilian Duty Respirator because I haven't really got anything better to do. Thought I'd cover it on this channel. It was a gas mask used by the Civil Defence and ARP, and saw some service on the front line, home front line use, not the military side of things. When I mean front line, I mean home front, by frontline services as such. So what we'll do is we'll go into a bit of information and history related to the civilian duty, and then we'll actually get the thing out of the haversack and take a look at it. So the civilian duty respirator began its conception in the hands of Major John A. Sadd in the late 1920s. This is the same fellow that patented the general civilian respirator. The civilian duty can be seen patent filed by Sadd on the 30th of October 1928. So the civilian duty actually routes back more than you might think. The civilian duty was intended to be used by the civil defence services. The civilian duty found itself on the front line of the home front for the police, ambulance crews, industry, dock workers, and I think the firefighters as well. But it would soon fall out of use by these services, and in 1942 those services would be, well, they would adopt the general service respirator. Later on in the post-war Cold War period, Sebe Gorman would make an industrial version of this in, I think, around the 1970s, so I think. And if you aren't familiar with Sebe Gorman, he used to make a lot of general service respirator style pure ether masks for industrial use, and if I'm not mistaken, sometimes used original wartime face pieces. And I will say that one big way to tell whether the civilian duty or general service respirator that you've got is manufactured by Sebe Gorman is it will have a Sebe Gorman yellow stamp on there. Sometimes it will, because he did also make wartime civilian duty respirators and so forth. The civilian duty was produced in two sizes, small and normal. There were three main versions of the civilian duty respirator, that being the Mark I, the Mark II and the Mark III. And of course the Mark III being the most common of them all, and that's the one we're going to take a look at today. I'm not going to go into all the details of the versions, but there was the telephonist civilian duty, and I do have an example of that, but that can wait for another video another time, and so on. And however, I've got a Mark II civilian duty as well, and I'll cover that in a different video as well. Yeah, and there was things like the original boxes you can get for your civilian duty respirator and things like that, but yet again, different topic, different video. So what we'll do is we'll get out the civilian duty, because I'm going to talk a bit about the filters on these things. So what we'll do is we'll get out the mask. As you can see, I'll show you the haversack first. Comes in this haversack. It's got the guy's name on. Tav Osborne. And I'm pretty sure this particular one was used by the London Railways, LNER, sorry. Again, you can see that more information there. You've got your mask in your inside, so a simple haversack. There were some, I think, more issue ones, and I'll put an example up now of the other type of haversack. Okay, so we've got out the Civilian Duty, and I want to talk a bit about the filters now. As you can see, I don't know how well you can see it because it's worn off a bit, but you've got a painted band that goes around the filter. I'll stand it up. I don't know whether you should be able to see that. What I'll do is I'll zoom in on the filter itself, so you can see that painted band on there. So you might find that your Civilian Duty has got a painted band around the filter. Now if it's got a red band painted, then that indicates that the filter is meant for the Civilian Duty Respirator. And by the way, that also means, well, with most of these World War II masks, it does have an asbestos element in the makeup of the filter. But we'll go on to that, because not all civilian duties have asbestos in the makeup in their filter. For example, if a filter has a green painted band, that indicates that resin wool rather than asbestos wool was used in the makeup of the filter. And what we'll do is, I don't know if you see this on the front, this cylinder disc, that is the context filter, the pre-filter. So we'll talk a bit about that. So the context pre-filter was constructed of 19mm of thick aluminium and adonised green. The contents of the pre-filter are resin wool, and the reason for the making of the context was due to the fear of arsenic gases, as the standard filter alone, which is this container here, this filter here, ignoring the added additional filter. This piece here is the main filter, the standard filter, lacked enough protection against war gases that contained arsenic. The context was introduced in May of 1940 for said reasons. It was usually taped on by adhesive tape, brown or black tape. As you can see, brown tape. It's more of a beigey colour, but you've got the tape that goes around the filter. And these probably would have been taped on by your local ARP warden or whoever. They weren't done in the factories. The filter, or the main filter at least, is secured by a metal clasp that goes all the way around the filter. If I zoom out, I'll give you a better view of it. So it goes all the way around this clasp and attaches the mask to the filter, or the filter to the mask. What I'll do is I'll get a context filter, which should have got at the start of the video, and I'll show you a context by itself, the pre-filter by itself. And like I say, the pre-filter is safe. It is resin wool. That is the pre-filter. Then the other side, and it's just a resin wall piece in there. So I'll put that back. So anyway, the Civilian Duty, I say it was produced in small and normal. This one, if I can find the stamp, is a small size, just above my thumb there. That's a small size. And this one was, the date's worn off, but this one was made in December. The company is just above there. I actually don't know CG and whatever that would have been. I think that actually might be Steve Gorman, to be fair. I'm not too sure actually. Just because it says SG and something, I think that might be Steve Gorman, to be fair. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'm not too sure, because it might be likely that there's other companies that have similar initials, but S and G, well, to me that's Steve Gorman and, well, Steve Gorman and Co. But I'm not too sure whether that is Steve Gorman or not. But anyway, you've got your maker's mark there, just below the sizing stamp, which is small, like I've said. Then you've got your lot number, which is lot A322. And I think that's 1939 on there. The 5th of the 11th, 1939. Which is interesting because this piece is December. If that's the month date. I don't know, to be fair now. But anyway, we'll take it that it was made on the 15th of the 11th, 39. As you can see, I'll zoom in there. At the front, you've got a input. A microphone could have been added on there. I think in the factories that hole would have been punched and a microphone input added, but that's just left blank, nothing in there. You've got your exhale valve or your flutter valve, lot number, I think that might be 107 there. So how this works is you breathe in through the filter, that filters out the gases, and the exhaled air comes out through this valve on the front. Your two glass eyepieces with metal frames, and the head harness is a bit knackered, but you've got your straps there, and you've got your head harness pad, and a lot of these are gone brittle, but this one's still extremely soft. And it looks like the guy's decided to put his name in there, Tav Osborne. The inside of the mask, I don't know how well you're going to see it. Got your inlet valve down there, and what have you. But yeah, this is a Mark III Civilian Duty. Like I say, there was a Mark 1, 2 and 3. And these ones are the most common you're going to come across. Sometimes you'll come across them with the pre-filter added, or sometimes without. Sometimes you'll find them with a red and green band painted on there, and sometimes you'll find them with just a green or just a red band painted on. I'll get another example of a Civilian Duty. which hasn't got the pre-filter. Got a red and green band on there. And as far as I know, there wouldn't be any asbestos in the red and green band. I'll zoom in so you can actually see the differences on the bands. If I move the flutter valve out of the way, see the differences there. And it has no filter for context even. I will say that on the Mark II Civilian Duty, because the context was only 19mm thick, it was too big for the Mark II filter. So what they had to do is they had to put a brass clasp around the filter, then attach the context and then put the tape on. That one there is NBR, which is I'll put the name of the company in the video. Can't really remember NBR off the top of my head, but I'll put it there. I'll put it in the video. Same again. Exactly the same. This one is dated 1941, and this one is a, I don't know how I'm going to say that, but this one is a normal sized one. And yet again, you've got that clasp going around to hold the filter into place. Got some more markings there. That's that company there, I'll tell you that. It's Leyland and Birmingham Rubber, with lot number 143A. So that's that. Yet again, not being punched in there, so it's not for a microphone to be fitted. What I'll do is I'll show you the head harness, as it's gone all brittle, this one, and cracks. What I was trying to say on there, it hasn't had a microphone fitted. That's what I meant to say. Simple head harness, pretty much the same. And then the insides are the same, if you can see that.